Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode on, another episode. Basically, another video where I do realistic inspired loadouts from particular units, particular armies, countries. You guys know the drill. I did it with Zasson, and this is the second episode. Second episode. Uh, yes, it's not official, not series, whatever. Um, what we're going to do today is another loadout based on actually uh, an Israeli loadout. Just a general loadout used by the IDF or the Israeli Defense Force in the Cold War era to be precise. So, no modernized Galils just yet, and just the Uzi for now. So what's the history behind the IDF, the Galil, the Uzi? I could go for all of them here, but I'm just gonna be quick, or at least try to be quick. Um, the Galil, was a rifle or concept of a rifle that I find really, really fascinating. So in the formation of Israel, Israel was Israel as we know today, um, was basically born in 1948 and already thrown into a war against a coalition of Islamic nations. The newly formed state of Israel had to build an army out of pretty much nothing. Um, it's not out of pretty much nothing. Is a little too harsh. They had a mishmash of World War II equipment, so MP40s, Car 98s, SMLEs, Brens, but the enemy had recently acquired the famous AKMs and AK-47s. So the Israelis asked for help for the West or NATO to send um, a modern rifle that could compete with the AK. So they sent the FAL. At the time that the FAL was sent, the Uzi had already been invented. I'm gonna get there soon enough. Um, but the Israeli Defense Force found itself with many problems while using the FAL. So in certain situations, they would ditch the FAL for the AK, which was a more reliable platform, is a much more easier platform to operate and to maintain. So they dished that or switched to the Uzi, which was also like the AK, a very crude, a very simple to operate SMG that was crude, easy to use, and easy to maintain. Um, the IDF, in the light of all of these issues, decided to, let's take what we learned from, using the AK, using the FAL, and what we currently have of ammunition, because Israel being a nation that was aligned with NATO and the US, of course, had 5.56 and 7.62 NATO. So they developed a rifle that was basic in a nutshell. It's basically a Kalashnikov chambered for modern NATO calibers. They took the design principles of the AK and made it chambered in 7.62 NATO, and most importantly 5.56. The 5.56 variant being a particular inspiration for the Russians for them to develop their own caliber in 545, which would eventually lead to the AK-74. The version that I have equipped here is the Galil in 762 NATO. It has 3 rounds on Warzone, and people don't really like the Galil, or as I call in game, the Grav, for pretty understandable reasons. The recoil is a tad bit too much to handle, even with certain attachments. I would definitely recommend using red dot sights for not only reducing the perceived recoil of when you fire, because magnified sights obviously make the perceived recoil a little higher than it actually is. And it actually does some really good damage in close range, especially the 7.62 conversion. Of course, monolithic suppressor. I think, one of the longer barrels here, the second barrel option, in fact. And of course, to complete the look of the Galil here, I have one of, I think it's the first or the second stock, which basically removes that weird AS Val style stock. Of course, our secondary is going to be the Uzi. I'm going to get into the history of that. So basically, when, of course, going back to the wars that Israel fought with World War II equipment, they have, of course, Stens, they had MP40s, but again, those SMGs were not really reliable in the field and were outdated by modern doctrine standards. The MP5 was starting development, so was starting development there, or I think the G3 was starting development by the time the Uzi was being developed and released to the field. So it was probably the first modern SMG after World War II. Again, pretty crude, pretty reliable, and pretty maintainable. Much like the AK. Just let me here, the Grav. So of course, the Galil here looking pretty good. The Uzi, of course, the Uzi would evolve into the mini Uzi, the micro Uzi. I mean, I'm gonna make I would make a little Uzi joke, but I'm not that unfunny. I'm not that cringe, but cringe jokes can be funny, man. It's so bad it's good. Okay, so I have a pretty good gameplay here with the Galil and the Galil and the Uzi. Playing here as the one and only Mason from Black Ops. As the Galil, as this Galil, in fact, was available in Black Ops 1. Of course, I had to pick a Black Ops 1 legend. So of course I had to pick Mason here, which his hair is I don't remind myself having just a block of red textures as Mason's hair back in 1964 or 1969. I don't know. But Mason looking pretty good here with the Galil. Of course, I would imagine he would be a big fan of the Galil from his experiences in Vietnam using the AK, the AKM, the AK-47, and the Russian equipment. Because the Galil is basically the Galil is basically an AK, but in 5.56. So I hope you guys liked the video, and I see you soon.
battle royale. Gas is approaching your position. Move to the safe zone.
Does anyone need this?
Enemy soldier incoming.
Copy. Scavenger contract.
Eliminate all targets in the AO.
Gear located.
Friendly UAV overhead. Friendly loadout drop on the way.
Hey, anyone need this?
Enemy soldier incoming.
Eyes on shooter. Coordinates marked.
Hostile dropping into the area. Watch the skies.
Check the front!
25 remaining.
Moving.
Enemy UAV overhead.
Movement here! Got an enemy!
Friendly loadout drop on the way.
Single shooter.
Got gas inbound. Safe zone relocated.
Coordinates marked. Never mind.
Contact! Target here!
Enemy precision airstrike. Take cover. Enemy UAV overhead.
This one's mine.
Here located. Here located.
Bounty target has been marked. Gas is moving.
I'm taking fire!
Our team's in the safe zone.
Contact! Got an enemy!
Single shooter. You better not let Wood see you crying.
Gas is moving in. New safe zone located. Fire sales active. Spy station costs are adjusted.
Contact! Contact!
I'm taking fire!
We're out of time. Stop the safe zone.
You better not let Wood see you crying.
Enemy UAV overhead. Enemy UAV overhead. Enemy launched an advanced UAV. We're exposed. Enemy UAV overhead. Enemy cluster strike incoming. Fire sales done. Prices are back to normal. Got gas moving in. remain.
down.
You're nearly done. You've got gas moving in. Be advised, enemy team is tracking your location.
Fighting fit and good to go. What did they do to me? You can come back from anywhere. Trust me, I know. Who's next? Something coming. Throwing frag. Ready for more? Sure you are.